Hey everyone, my name is Marissa. Welcome to my divination channel. As always, it's an absolute honor for me to be able to host this type of container for you guys, containers of healing and just of validating your guys' experience. I feel like it's the most healing aspect of tarot is it is just a tool to confirm deep down what it is that you already know about yourself and about your life's journey and this incarnation in general. So always an honor for me to be entrusted with these intimate and sometimes life-altering aspects of your incarnation. My purpose for being here is to simply experience the most amount of freedom possible, and we do so by aligning with our true nature and our soul's blueprint. And at this point in my incarnation, tarot is one of the ways that I utilize my gifts and talents in order to help the collective or to contribute, give back to the collective at this time. And these readings today are all about a check-in with your higher self. So readings in general are always up in the air. I'm kind of along the journey just as much as you guys are. And these ones in particular, I'm not sure what's going to come through because it's a much more generalized and open theme. All right, but today we have 4 piles to choose from. As always, use your highest intuition. And if you need to, a random number generator also works. And whenever you guys are feeling ready, let's get right into these readings. Hey Pile 1, this is a message from your higher self or just an overall check-in from your higher self, okay? So y'all don't really need to know the sections we got going on, but I guess I'll break it down. This section right here represents the energy of what you need to know or what your higher self would like to communicate to you at this time. And this section is what to do or what you need to know further about what you need to know. So we're going to dive into this. So the energy that sets the tone is about embracing the shadow. However, I feel like this doesn't necessarily have to do with embracing your own shadow. I feel like there is a message here from your higher self about like making amends with someone. And this doesn't necessarily have to mean that you guys are moving forward in terms of a relationship or a friendship or whatever. But I feel like you guys might have been struggling in terms of understanding how to go about repairing a certain connection or like understanding why someone did something to you or why they treated you in a certain way or they said something to you. And you know, I feel like this person might have similar characteristics as you. Like you guys can be very similar in many ways. However, I feel like this person is a bit less mature than you. It could be an age, but this could also just be symbolic for they're less mature than you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, etc. And so I feel like your higher self is just tuning in and saying, it's never about the world of form. Higher self and spirit, your guides, your spirit guides don't necessarily care about what's happening on the earth plane. This game is all about energetics, okay? And what needs to be seen and experienced due to those energetics will be, and there's a message here about harboring maybe some resentment. We do have the Page of Cups coming up twice. I'm very intuitive when I select, when I do take reversals, and I was guided to keep this one reversed. And it's interesting because I do feel like this has to do with either a friendship that has been in your life for some time or someone that you shared like some sort of romantic dynamic with, or someone that there's just like memories of love. There's memories of a connection. The 6 of Cups did want to pop out when I was shuffling for this as well. And I just took a note of that. It didn't fly out like the rest of the cards, so I just noted it. And so it was interesting for it to come up again. So this is all just acknowledging your higher self is really just bringing through for me the symbol of needing to see something in a different light. Okay, the thing about Kairos and this like initiation of perception, there's something about this situation when we're holding unforgiveness in our heart, we're not seeing something clearly about it. So I'm being guided. I don't know why I'm like holding back telling the story, but I don't like to talk about myself too much in readings, but sometimes these examples, like when I tune into other readers, I really love their examples, real-time examples. So I also like to give them, so you guys know I'm not just like spewing out information that I don't, and guidance that I don't actually apply my own self. Okay. So the representation that is coming through, the symbol that spirit is inviting me to share with you guys is when, for example, like Maya, my daughter, was 8 months old, and I experienced some infidelity from her father's side. And this is something I'm very open with. And, I learned so much from it. We both did. And so I feel comfortable, and, I'd like forget it's even really happened until this type of scenario is coming up, because it hurt me so much, and it caused me to go into like deep searching. Like there was deep searching for truth, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. I was looking through the wrong set of eyes. I was looking like through the psychological perspectives. I was like blaming myself. I was like pissed off at the other person that it happened with, pissed off at him. And I knew that there was something about it I wasn't seeing clearly, because, this card is all about you go into the underworld in order to restore wholeness to your experience. Okay. This is about honoring the yin and the yang, and that makes up life, and the lessons, understanding there's lessons and blessings within all of these types of dynamics. And so essentially I was like torn up, and I could not find forgiveness for anyone, including myself. And I was so angry. And I remember, this goes into the guidance that your higher self is bringing through. You actually have higher power come through. And what my guides told me, like, they were just like, this is a karmic thing. This is something that you guys needed. Both of you guys knew the likelihood of this happening in order to catalyze both of you in a certain direction. And so I kept going in meditation. I would go on these long walks with Maya while he was at work, and I would just like push her in her stroller, and I would beg. I was like, please help me see the higher perspective, because I know when I'm seeing the higher perspective, like, it's going to feel right. It's going to feel better. It's no matter what's happening, when you're seeing through that lens of spirit, and when your spiritual eye is really open, you just see things so much differently, and terrible things can happen. But when it's put in its proper context, and when you hear the voice of your guides and the voice of your soul whispering the relevancy and how this is meant to grow you, it just feels okay. And you learn from it and you grow from it. And so I remember my guides just telling me about that situation to wrap the story up. They were like, you never know what someone else needs to experience on their path in order to have a certain realization. And one of the ways we have the most powerful realizations in this life is through the reflections we get from other people. Okay, so there's something here about something you had with someone. It could be, most certainly be with someone with the opposite sex as you, regardless of what what gender you are, or whatever you identify as. But I do feel like there's some sense of you being maybe a bit more advanced than this individual on a more spiritually, like a spiritual level. Sorry, I cannot talk. So much information is coming through, and I'm trying to like spit it out quickly while not forgetting the other things that guides are bringing up. So this situation, I feel like you're being guided. Your higher self wants to bring your awareness around the fact that in order to bridge the gap and come to a place of harmony, it's not necessarily because you want to restore this relationship, maybe, but it's more because this, what the spiritual journey is all about is recognizing oneness. That's what ascension is about. It's about going back to the one, right? Descension is what we've all gone through, and we have our first births, and we're, creating all this karma. And most of the beings that I work with on my channel, they're older souls. So you've had many, many incarnations. And so you're on the ascension, right? You guys understand the concepts of oneness much more easily than someone who is taking a being that is taking their first few incarnational births, right? The separation, the veil of illusion is so strong for those individuals. However, this is an initiation in terms of your lens of perception. This is an initiation card. And this is really like, that was such a powerful lesson that I carried that happened years ago. I mean, that happened literally 7.5 years ago. And that's one of my most powerful lessons to this day. And the second I had that realization, I was trying everything in the book. I was I was looking through all these different resources. What does it mean when people are unfaithful and all this stuff? And it just didn't feel right. And it's because you guys are at a level where it needs to be a spiritual understanding for it to feel right, because you guys are extremely spiritual beings is what I'm seeing. And so there's something about here, you guys have been trying to figure something out, or trying to go in. You've been, wanting to feel lighter about a certain experience, and maybe even restoring a connection. That might be relevant for some of you guys as well. And so I feel like regardless of when this happened, maybe it was a betrayal for you guys, okay? Or maybe it was, something similar to the example I gave, or maybe it was just something that just felt like a betrayal to you that maybe the other person wouldn't even understand or something, but I feel like your higher self is just bringing your awareness around the fact that when you have these spiritual perspectives and when you understand what the karmic lesson was, and that we're all here playing specific roles for each other, not because we want people to get what's coming for them. No, because when you understand oneness, you recognize that the more free your foe or people that have done you wrong, the more free they become, the more harmonious this whole earth becomes, right? And you understand that is another self. And the more that we have more beings just remembering that and acting from those harmonious places, those places of empowerment, the lighter the planet gets holistically. And these things aren't needed. These negative or uncomfortable, not negative, but just these more uncomfortable catalysts aren't necessarily needed. But your higher self is reminding you this is a karmic thing in nature. This is something that was meant to instigate your remembrance, instigate this awakening of perception. Because it's like, once I had that, realization, I was looking at people so differently. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone's a soul. No one belongs to me. I don't belong to anyone. We're all just souls. Just all just souls doing our best. And in very subtle and powerful ways, we are all just going through this whole thing seemingly together, but in our own universes, like truly in our own mother, universes. Like I can't, I don't know. I can't stress that enough. But there's something here about your confidence, and there's a link here with these 2 6s. Specifically, I feel like, yeah, I'm not surprised we have the spiritual prosperity, but the material prosperity as well. If you guys are wanting to step more into a lifestyle that is more suiting towards your inner revelations and who you've become on an internal level, then it's time to let those memories go in love and to extract the nutrients in a way that you're left feeling empowered. Okay, that you're left feeling like that anything anyone has to do is not a reflection of you. Their karma, how they treat you is their karma. And how you respond, here moving forward is your own. And so again, we've heard this in so many ways and seen so many cheesy bumper stickers about forgiveness is not for the other person so much as it is for you. But you guys are at a level to where you understand that the other person is you. So it's for all. It's for the all, the one, right? And I feel like this might be something that you've been dealing with in different ways, right? We'll get the same lessons through different people. And I feel like this is maybe even something you've been learning throughout incarnational experiences, or just a karmic knot you were called to the planet. This was a main part of your blueprint in terms of your planetary service that you were here to address, right? Because whatever we do in our spare time, when no one's looking, by ourselves, affects everyone, affects the whole. And so, understanding true forgiveness and true compassion, these aren't things that you can just mimic or make up or pretend, right? It truly is a shift in consciousness, which is a shift in perception, right? And so I feel like there's something here about letting it go, moving on with the 5 of Swords, acknowledging, yeah, that's what happened, but starting over new with a new perspective in general. And, if this relationship, just seeing everyone as much as you can, releasing the history and seeing this person, who are they in this moment? And if the energy feels right, it feels right. If not, let's just move on, move forward. There's other people to connect with. There's other beings that are on your level. And when I say your level, not that you're higher or lower than anyone, but they're just within your vibrational realms, right? They're within your bandwidth. All right. And so there is a lot here about your higher self coming through and saying forgiveness for self, forgiveness for others, forgiveness for whatever misperceptions there were here. We even have the spiritual eye being lit up here too, in terms of the higher power. You know, when we feel contracted about something, when we feel unforgiveness about something, we're not truly seeing through our spiritual eye. We're seeing through some sort of trauma, some sort of core wound that occurred in childhood, which is what the Six of Cup energy can also represent. We think it's about these people. Oftentimes we think it's about these lovers and these even close friends, etc. You know, when they trigger us, it's like we want to be mad at them, but if it wasn't something within us that was able to be triggered, then we wouldn't. And not to say that, you know, we're not holding people accountable for, you know, for their behavior. That's not what I'm saying at all. You know, we can exist within, it's acknowledging all the different layers to these things, all the different dimensions to these things. And so understanding we're all souls, we're all doing our best. I send you on your way in love, but peace, you know, if it's not right anymore, then peace. Peace be with you. You know, like Tupac said, I want my enemies to eat, just not at my table. You know, it's, you know, that kind of thing. But moving on with forgiveness. And when we know we're seeing things through a faulty lens of perception, when we start to feel contracted about our reality, about ourselves, about someone else, we know that there's some dissonance within our field that needs to be either addressed or just sat with more. You know, just letting ourselves marinate and letting the energy just be what it is while we sit and breathe and release any ideas of, you know, anything, any types of timelines or narratives that we have attached to ourselves or a relationship or other people. Releasing all those things, you know, because they weigh us down at the end of the day, and they're not truly serving unless we're utilizing them to help other people, you know, and to show other people how we've overcome certain things, how we've undone certain karmic knots, how we've set ourselves free. Then it's not really necessary to bring it up, you know, or to like keep reiterating it. But there's something here about, you know, the more that you feel free around this specific area, and again, embracing people's wholeness, because you have appreciated, you know, when people give you grace for things that maybe when you've acted out of your ass, you know, and vice versa. Doesn't mean, again, we need to continue to let them in our lives, but it's like, okay, lesson learned, not going to be that person again, moving on. And, you know, giving other people the same grace and remembering we're only acting from our levels of perception. We're only ever acting from our levels of consciousness. It is nothing personal. And your finances, your spiritual understanding, your spiritual, just like feeling content in yourself and in life, and feeling able to confidently move forward, and, you know, where the outside influences have no impact over how you feel about yourself. Right. And so this is what this kind of initiation was here to do. It was here to kind of like bring you more into that state of, I see you as a soul. You know, we have these two images of people kind of like reaching out. I see you as a soul. I see you as another sovereign, innocent being at the core of who you are, that just has some misperceptions, some cloudiness, you know, some hurts that maybe you're operating from and you don't even know. And I hope you can become as free as you can in this life, just as you would hope that same thing for yourself, right? And so bridging, I feel like even just energetically, you can bridge that gap and you can send that person love, because the more sensitive you are, the more you really start to see this. People know how you feel about them. People truly know how you feel about them, whether you say it or not, and vice versa, right? It's like, we know, like I know when someone can know that, like, you know, I'm upset about something. I know they can feel it. And vice versa. I can really feel when someone feels a type of way about me, you know? And so it's like, the more that I understand that, the more that I'm like, I just want to send love, you know? I just want us all to just be forgiven. And, you know, that's the biggest thing they say that keeps us tied to karma is unforgiveness. I actually just posted this the other day, and I don't post too much of, like, I don't know. I don't post too much Dolores Cannon, but it was a Dolores Cannon like quote or something. And it talked about what keeps us trapped on the wheel of karma. And it's unforgiveness, right? And something that my guides kind of showed me a while back, or like last month or something. Like, I don't know why this theme was so prevalent in my own life, but essentially unforgiveness keeps you bound to the wheel of karma. And if there's things that we feel guilty of in our own incarnation for doing, it's like we can't truly expect to be lifted. Like, we can be forgiven, so to speak. We can undo a lot of karma in one moment alone if we forgive and we truly mean that. if we truly find it in our hearts to actually forgive someone, and that's something that you can't fake, that's something that, God knows everything, who do you think God is? It's you. And so that sometimes can take lifetimes to do, or, we can really get a lot done in one incarnation. We really can, especially when you're operating from the levels that I see you guys are at. All right. And so maybe even if it's just a little bit, I feel like even just a little bit, just the path that you guys are going on, I feel like requires a high integrity. It's like one of those things where someone can do something in unconscious behavior, but if they're already largely unconscious, it doesn't have that many repercussions because it's just mechanics at that point. But it's when you're operating from this level of perception that you guys are, the repercussions are, a little bit more severe. Not in a scary way. We only have eternity to do this, but it's like, because so much more is, I guess, expected of you from the higher realms in general. And so I feel like whatever this might be, it's time to let it go, for you and for everyone and for the all. And just, remembering that shadow exists in all of us to various degrees. And, some people just don't have the tools that you might have had and the lifetimes and the experience that you have had to be able to transmute the darkness in a way that I feel like you guys are able to do. You guys really understand the journey on a really realistic and practical level. You understand the journey and the metaphysics of it, etc. And so this grace that we send to people through, not even talking to them, but we can send grace to people, and that can do so much healing. That can provide so much space. Like your grace can create so much space in someone else's reality for source to come in and touch them, and for them to have some sort of realization, So it really is like we're really all in this together, and none of our relationships are by mistake. None of our relationships, no matter if they're situationships, no matter how long they've been, like, those things that kind of poke and prod at these parts of our hearts and psyche, right? And then and have some sort of effect, make us want to close our heart or feel bad about ourselves, or, point the finger at someone else, or, talk about how wrong they are, whatever, all of these things are just invitations and reflections into our own self, Yeah. So I'm going to leave this reading here for now. I hope this made sense. I hope this was applicable to you. Pile number 1, thank you for being here. If this reading did resonate, let's leave the spiral. I think there is a spiral. Yeah, there is. Let's leave that spiral in that comment section. If you have nothing else to share, give this video a thumbs up, and I do hope to see you on my channel again soon. Much love. Hey, group number 2, welcome to your reading. This is a message from your higher self, or just to check in with your higher self is probably a better way of saying this. Now, I really was shooketh when I was shuffling, and we had both the mothering card come out and then the mother. I was like, no accidents. I love when this happens. So this is a very beautiful reading because first and foremost, I feel like what your higher self is wanting to emphasize is that you have been going through transformation after transformation after transformation. And I feel like you have been meeting your karmic blockages and your karmic knots with a really good spirit, like a really curious and innocent kind of lightheartedness, I guess. And you've been really doing your best to be tender with yourself and to remember your own innocence and your own purity. And there's a lot here about undoing undoing generational karma and generational curses, specifically on your mother's side. All right. And there's something here about healing, karmic patterns that you picked up in childhood. Some of you guys could be mothers, or even just parents in general, but for majority of you, mothers. And you're seeing how much more light your relationship is getting, not just with yourself, but with your children. And I feel like your higher self is acknowledging that you're just tapping into this wellspring of nourishment across the board, for other people, for yourself. And I feel like it's been a long time coming. And I feel like, that I feel like you feel like I'm not done yet. And your higher self is acknowledging this is the journey. You're never done until you're done, you know? And even then, who knows what happens? We only know so much, and intuitively, you know, we can only tap into so much. But I feel like this is really saying that you're closer than you think to tipping some huge karmic scales and to stepping beyond these emotional and spiritual and even financial states of disparity that you're healing through your generational line. I feel like this is, again, a journey that you've been on for some time, and it feels like you've been in this alone, and it feels like, you know, to some degree, I feel like you have felt, your higher self is acknowledging that you have felt like you haven't had like what it takes to overcome these things. It almost felt like these karmic propensities were just so larger than life. It's like, how am I ever going to overcome this? But I feel like you're already starting to sense the light. I mean, we have Anima Mundi, which is the last card in this deck. We have 2 10 cards coming up here. We have the Wheel of Fortune. You know, there's so much here. And Justice that talk about things are shifting. And you end the entire reading with a 3 of Wands energy. So whether or not you feel that way, things are really shifting for you. And you have been working very hard, and that's something that your higher self is acknowledging. And you've maintained this lighthearted spirit. You've maintained this kind of youthful curiosity in regards to these things, but also acknowledging that it's been tough. It's been hard. It's been, I feel like for you, you're a tough critic on yourself. Okay, you can tend to be a tough critic, and you like can judge yourself a lot, and maybe it feels like you're never quite there. You always feel like, I'm never quite there. Like just when you start to come into balance into one aspect of your life, another one comes out of balance or something. And you know, there's a big message here about, you know, being kinder to yourself and taking things slow. All right. I know we're tired of hearing that, but truly what's going to help you mend your nervous system, you know, and after all of these years, is to not buy into those narratives that your worth is attached to what you're doing, and how much results you have, and how many people are here to witness it, and how much money you're making or whatever. Like, those are not the results that matter at the end of the day, because that is attached to this world of form, which when your avatar is expired, so is everything in this world of form, you know? And so what's more relevant is you healing your nervous system and you coming more in tune with your emotional body in particular, with all of this love. You know, the mother archetype is the ultimate archetype for love, unconditional love of like, you know, you if you're a mother, you get it. It's like this, you couldn't possibly see one thing wrong with this child, with your child, even when they're acting in ways that are maybe annoying, or, you know, just like you're just at your wit's end and you are just overstimulated or something. Like, at the end of the day, there's nothing you could see wrong with your child. And that's how you're being invited to see yourself, regardless if you feel like you're in a state where you're being annoyed, or you're annoying, or what your needs are too much, or, you know, just this idea of feeling like you're too much, or you don't want to ask too much from other people or something, you know. This is about mothering yourself and creating safe containers, like not stepping out of your safe container until it truly feels like you're ready to do so, until those, you know, you can just feel. And it's not even something you have to think about. It's just like you'll be able to acknowledge when those wheels are turning and it's time. You know, and because that transformation has happened on a cellular level, and you've given yourself, you have allotted yourself, you've gifted yourself the space to kind of mend these parts of yourself that maybe have gone avoided during some parts of your life. Like you didn't know how to address them, or they just were truly too heavy to address at the time. But because you've been on this path for some time, this journey for some time, this spiritual journey, I feel like you've just developed enough wherewithal and enough light to kind of support you in being able to address the immensity of shadow that, you know, you've been carrying. And for many of you, feel like you've been carrying by yourself because a lot of people don't understand you. or understand why you make decisions the way that you do, or why you see things the way that you do. You know, you see through a very like new and original lens of perception, I feel. And so I feel like there's a lot here about, there's a lot of indication about feeling more calm in your emotional body. And I love too that in both the what you need to know and like where you're going message from your higher self, we have the 9 of Cups and the 10 of Cups. So there's so much here about emotional fulfillment, that being much more important. Okay. And everything is going to follow, you know, it's like the more that you mother and nurture yourself, it's like the world opens up to you. And it should never feel like you're doing something that's like outside of your integrity, but you're giving yourself permission to try new things. But also if it just doesn't feel right for whatever reason, or it's like, you're like, okay, this is taking me outside of myself. You know, the journey is all about, this ascension journey that you're on is all about restoring oneness within and without, and going back to the one. And so sometimes there are things that actually take us away from that distract our attention, because we learn from society, it's better to have numbers, it's better to have fame, it's better to, you know, whatever, do these things that some might be right for some people, but just aren't truly in alignment for the type of journey that you're on. And so I feel like the biggest message from your higher self is it's really important that you're doing things that are very calming to your nervous system. Breath work is one of those things that I have learned as someone that has had a lot of experiences in early childhood that, you know, really altered my emotional body, that really altered me just feeling safe in my own skin. And so, of course, that, you know, affects how I show up in relationships. That affects so much, you know. And so there's a lot here about just acknowledging we're all on different paths, and this journey is truly just between you and God, you know, and doing what you can to open your heart. And a large part of that has to do with feeling settled and feeling safe, feeling peaceful, feeling at ease. And I feel like too, this pile might have an idea, or might have this faulty idea, or this misperception, or this belief that time is running out, or, you know, that you have to force a transformation. You know, I'm getting this example that actually came through for my guides of like, I feel like sometimes when we're in certain fields, for example, in my field, for example, I feel like sometimes there's this idea that, you know, I'm supposed to host retreats. I'm supposed to get on stage and talk in front of a bunch of people. And I did all these things. I've done Toastmasters. I was a, you know, fitness instructor for 3+ years. I put myself in environments where I was doing what I thought I needed to do to transform, you know, and it, you know, boosted my confidence in a certain way. It did, but at the same time, I was doing it because the outside was telling me. I was still taking outside cues of, this is what a confident person does. This is what someone who is truly confident does, you know, and this is how they show up. And this is how they are in A, B, C, and D settings. Versus, I just saw 10 on the clock too. So and there's 10 here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10s, okay? So that might be like a huge number synchronicity for you. But, you know, and my guides kind of came through, and it's like, that's great and all, you know, more power to you, every lessons and blessings within everything. We're all learning and doing our best. But this realization was so profound for me the other day, because in a way I was still not honoring my own soul's blueprint, and the fact that, you know, I don't have to jump into these things just because that's what I'm still convincing myself I'm supposed to do. You know, it's okay to be in a learning phase. It's okay to be in the cocoon. It's okay to not be your fullest, biggest, brightest self at all. And the only way you're actually going to be able to get to that transformation is when you're honoring the space that you're actually in, when that cellular healing has actually been given permission to happen. Because if you were in environments when you were younger, or you just 11:11 on the clock, or you just have memories or whatever of where your nervous system was deeply disturbed and you just really did not feel safe, like, you know, it's gonna take some time on this level. That's the name of this game, time and space, of this third, fourth dimension, you know, time, space, time. So, you know, there's a lot here about giving yourself permission and not taking the bait that you should be somewhere that you're not, and understanding that when you are ready, when those scales are ready to tip and you're ready to show up in a new way, in a different way, in a way that maybe you feel deep down, you can sense it in your soul's blueprint, you know, you'll get there when you're meant to, and you can still enjoy exactly where you're at, enjoying every part of the process, because I feel like there's other people that are like taking note. There's other people that are learning from you, that thing about generational curses was coming through. So it's like you're kind of doing the work so that your descendants won't have to. They won't have to work so hard, They won't have to try so hard to just feel safe in their body. You're doing a lot. I feel like you really don't recognize how much you have done, how much healing you have done already. And how much, because you have healed so much, how like much more ahead your kids will be. Or, there's a lot coming up about children. So I really have to acknowledge that, I feel like a lot of you might have kids, or maybe that's something that's coming in the future. And this could just even be for, next lifetimes, or where you're going after this. Like, there's so much endings. There's so much finally closing the knot of things. And I feel like this might be something that you've been on for a while, and you're like, when the F, when, and I feel like a big part of this could also be realizing that we're on different journeys. And the only reason we tend to feel like we're not where we're supposed to be is if we're still kind of comparing our framework with someone else's. There's so many different reasons why people are in the circumstances, predicaments, roles, there's so many different layers to these things that we could never accurately compare. It's just like, does not work. It doesn't work. You couldn't even begin to try. It's like, does not compute. So I feel like your guides are saying those scales will tip the more that you're just kind of doing your best to nurture your heart, be okay with where you're at, being in a state of like gratitude, and just like acknowledging how far you've come, Like, there's some times where I do look back at versions of myself when I was terrified to do things and I forced myself to do them, and it was, great or whatever, Not to say if you feel genuinely inspired to do something, you're always going to learn and do it. You should always trust what your innermost self tells you above anything else you hear from the outside, okay? But, I just look back at some of those versions and I'm so proud of her, for doing her best. And that's exactly what your higher self is wanting you to see in this moment, is you've always done your best. And I feel like if anything, you guys could probably be pushing yourselves, like really pushing yourself beyond your limits, because you feel like you're running out of time, or you should be somewhere that you're not, or you should be, have more recognition than you do, or your career should be somewhere else, or whatever. It's like the place that you're operating from when you're moving. What is that? Are you operating from that fear of unworthiness still? Or is it really coming from this place of, my heart is open and I'm just, moving because I know this is where I'm supposed to go. And also giving yourself permission to like test those things out, test the waters. But overall, taking care of yourself emotionally and mentally, and understanding that you have undone so much. Okay, you have come so far. You have come so far. And the person that you are, like, regardless of your age, I feel like the version of yourself even 5 years ago would be so astounded that you are at the level, of integrity, and just like, you love so deeply, and you're such a compassionate being, and you have had many permission slips to not be that way. You've had many permission slips to close your heart down, and the rejection, the abandonment, whatever. You've had so many, the betrayals. You've had so many reasons, but I feel like it's your connection to the divine that has really supported you, and knowing that you were here for something bigger, that knowing that somehow the suffering was part of your purpose. You've always known that. And so honor your transformation, and there's nowhere else you need to be, or you should be. This is exactly where you're meant to be. And you'll know when it's time to like step out in a way that might be, I'm never giving advice to like not go beyond your comfort zones, but sometimes I feel like I feel like sometimes that can go along with the hyper masculine culture of like, constantly wanting to be better. It's like, you're perfect in this moment. And if we could just truly breathe and be with what's here now, we'll trust that when it's time for us to move, we'll move. And if we're doing our best to be as present as we can and take care of the now as best as we can, then everything else really does just unfold perfectly from there. And you'll know when you're meant to move. You'll know the difference between, okay, this is going to make me uncomfortable. You know, the fear is there because I'm taking a leap into this new paradigm. That's the fear. Or if it's like, okay, no, I feel like I pushed myself beyond because I was still operating from a pattern of unworthiness, a belief of needing to prove myself, you know, of keeping up with out templates on the outside that might not actually be the most relevant for me at this point in time. But right now it's nurturing yourself and breathing, taking space, you know, mending, healing that nervous system. And so, you know, when destiny calls, you'll step into it. You'll know, you know, when you're operating from this degree, it's like, you're not going to miss out. When it's time, you'll know and you'll do it, you know, and you transform as you're doing it when you're guided to do that process. But again, not pushing yourself, not forcing yourself, because our culture is so on the, like, you know, you need to be anything than what you are now. So great work, right? Great, like, things on the horizon for you. And, you know, I feel like when that thing and you are in alignment with your destiny, whether you feel like it or not, and you're being prepared for something new, for sure. You're being prepared for something new, and your heart will recognize it. And I feel like by you continuing to just focus on your breath work and your Kundalini yoga or whatever you do to help, like, restore your nervous system and invite, you know, those good feeling hormones back into your experience, you know, whatever you're doing to go within and allowing more light into your, you know, your body, your light body, your physical vessel, you'll recognize when it's time to take that direction, you know, when those wheels are turning and you need to get on that wave and, you know, on to the next thing, right? So I'm going to leave this reading here for now, pile number 2. I hope this brought clarity, confirmation, and peace to your heart today. If this was your pile, let's leave let's leave the little dove. All right, let's leave the dove down below, one of my favorite emojis, and give this video a thumbs up if it resonates. And I do hope to see you on my channel again soon. Much love. Hey, group 3, welcome to your reading for check-in with your higher self. So this is all, like, very straightforward to me. I feel like you guys are going through something that feels like a nightmare, if I'm completely honest. It feels like you guys are doing it feels like this woman kind of looks like she's like, God, how many times can I say, like, she's tangled up in this mess or in this darkness, in these depths, in these emotions that she doesn't know how to get out of. And for the life of her, she's reaching for the light. And I feel like similarly, you guys might be going through literally that experience internally where something has shifted, something has fallen apart, or maybe that's something that you're afraid of, because the change in the wind kind of indicates to me that this is something that you might have been sensing for a while, and you were just like, I don't know, hoping it wouldn't happen or something, or sensing an ending needed to happen, and maybe now it's finally happened. And I feel like the ultimate message from your higher self here is you're not seeing that many blessings are actually coming in store. Are actually in store for you. Coming in store near you. Blessings. And I feel like this is offering a new beginning. All right. This is a huge blessing in disguise, right? So this could be something that, like, has been mentally debilitating for you, or, like, literally physically debilitating for you. Maybe you just, like, feel exhausted mentally because this has just triggered so much within you. And it feels like you're at rock bottom. It literally feels like you're going through the underworld and having to address some really scary things and having to look at some things that, quite frankly, you would just rather not have to. All right. And I feel like your higher self is saying, first and foremost, you have what you need to make it through this. And not only that, is the extent of, like, intensity that we have in activation or an initiation, whatever you want to call it, to the extent of, like, the extent of fear and doubt and confusion we're in is also the other side of that spectrum, so this is going to catapult you into even more clarity, even more conviction in yourself and your direction and your path. Because I feel like you might have just been, this might be one of those things where on a subconscious level, we have like created a tower moment, or we've like, even on a subconscious level, we can create like illness for ourselves and sickness for ourselves because we don't know how to get out of a certain situation, or we know we'd be better off like outside of a dynamic, and we just don't know how to like put it to bed or put it to rest or to move on or to accept or to like start a new beginning, because there's so much here about a new beginning that feels very serendipitous and that feels very like in alignment with your soul's blueprint and what it is that you feel like you're here to do. And there's something here about we can only sacrifice our truth for so long. This is telling me that your higher self is really acknowledging that this is something that you've known for quite some time was going to happen or needed to happen. And, it's like when we know that, when we are getting those intuitions and we don't act on it, like, you make the move or life is going to make it for you. And generally when life has to come in and make it for us, it's not in the cleanest way. And so I feel like first your higher self is like, you're going through a nightmare. That's what you feel. But at the end of the day, who do you think created this? Not saying that this is your fault, but saying that this is from a higher level. Your higher self needed this to happen. And like your higher self knew that this individuation that you are, pile 3, needed to experience this catalyst and this permission slip to do what you've needed to do for a while. And part of the lesson within this is you're not going to wait. When you sense that change in the wind, you're not going to wait to figure out why or to figure out how it's going to happen if you're not the one to catalyze it. And so this is part of this lesson is that you're not going to wait for things to get so messy, and to have to make your way out of all of this debris in order for a new beginning to happen. It's like this is just something that I tend to notice in the field that I'm in is we can forget that we don't have to be pushed in a corner. Sometimes I've even done this myself and felt like it was self-sabotage in a way, but at the end of the day, I feel like I just wanted to change and I didn't know how to just like say, hey, this is just like not for me anymore. No matter how much that might have surprised other people, I was like kind of like beating around the bush of what I knew was right for me and not. And so I subconsciously created like a very explosive-y, towery kind of energy, but it served me. We're going to learn the lesson either way, hopefully, because we can't move on until we've learned it. So, either way, it's like, oh, that felt really good to just like be the initiator, or, hey, that felt really shitty. Next time I'm going to be the initiator. So regardless, we extract the nutrients of these lessons, which, okay, pile 3 is going to be the initiator, and taking care of yourself, putting yourself as a priority and putting your mission as a priority and living from this empowered sense, this empowered version of yourself where you're just, the sacral reminds me a lot of intuition. And so you're following your intuition before it even makes sense, but knowing that either way, whether it was a messy ending or it was like more of a clean ending, a brighter beginning is on the horizon so long as you're doing your best to follow what you're here to do or to follow your intuition. That's when our decisions are divinely protected, is when the higher self sees that you're doing your best to live in integrity with your soul's blueprint and why you're here. And so the decisions that we make have less karmic repercussions when we make one that might hurt someone else or something, that might involve other people. When higher self sees, which is an aspect of yourself or God or whatever you want to say, sees this person feels deeply that what they're doing is right. Those decisions that you make are protected. And when we're doing things that, we know deep down, we feel like we should not be doing, it's not in alignment. When you know better and you don't do better, those have repercussions. They do. And not to say that you're going to have to come back, thousands of lifetimes and redo it. It's like just correcting it as soon as you can. As soon as you're noticing this faulty behavior and as soon as you notice that you're acting out of integrity and you're not, being as upfront with yourself, capital SELF, because it's just another version of you in that other body or that organization you're working for or whatever. It's all you at the end of the day. So what is there to fear? You're just talking to yourself, And so I feel like higher self in general, this lesson, a lot of this too is about how you actually physically feel when you are like not going in those directions that support your highest truth, you know, and when you're doing things that are kind of sacrificing the integrity of what you feel like you are actually here to do. You start to feel like lethargic and like you don't want to do anything, and maybe you're scrolling more, or, you know, it's like the energy literally gets sucked out of us because we're not honoring what we're here for, you know, and there's a lot here about channeling your energy that you do have as much as you can towards those areas, right? Working with what you have, following that excitement. And it's not even, you know, my guides are kind of working with me right now and maybe reframing following your excitement, because this is not following your feelings. This is not, you know, feelings are fickle. They come and they go. This is not following an emotion or like, I don't feel like doing this today, you know, that kind of thing. Like feelings come and go is what my guides are kind of working on. But those things, or working with me in regards to, but those things that continue to call to you, you know, that you don't know why, but you know, you should just do this. You should just go in this direction. You should just take a bet on yourself. You should, you know, give yourself permission to look like a beginner, to experience feelings of being, you know, those imposter syndrome types of feelings. But, you know, when it's your calling, which is something that keeps coming back to you, something that continues to replay, you know, that you're like, oh, I should be doing this, or I wish I could be doing this, throughout the weeks, the months, the years, you know, you'll have what you need to make it happen. And there's nothing you have to sacrifice, right? And things are going to actually turn out much better than you expect, you know, when you are following those things that are part of your calling, because you have guides that are here to work with you with your calling. You know, you can call up upon them, but the resources and the things you need to know, they'll just come to you, you know, because it's literally, it's being supported by, that's the piece you came here to play. That is the most integrous, thanks for whoever told me that was the actual word, the most integrous piece for you to play, okay, is that thing that keeps calling to you. And more, your higher self is saying, Pal 3, more and more, the towers are going to happen faster and more frequently for you now that you're aware of this. So sorry, not sorry. You know, but a bigger part of you wanted this. You don't want things to be messy. You really want to live more of a life. This is not my opinion, but this is what I feel like a deeper aspect of yourself is acknowledging, that you want to live a life that is very led by synchronicity, which is what this card represents. It's where preparation and luck seem to meet up, right? That synchronicity, serendipitous type of life where you're just going with the flow. You're embracing the endings when they're clear. You're not lingering in things, and, you know, new things are on the horizon, right? And you're just consistently following that inner wisdom, you know, that still small voice within. But the period that you're in now just might feel very tumultuous, and you might be feeling numb. You might be feeling like so disconnected from what you feel like you're here to do. And it's important to honor these states, you know, and I'm not here to say that I know why some people get in these states and why they get out of them, but I can just speak from experience. And that's the moments where I've been in the deepest depressions. It's generally because I've lost sight of my purpose, and I'm not acting on my highest passions. And, you know, I'm letting things linger that I know better, you know, and I'm not taking the initiative to make those changes that I'm sensing is time to be made, you know. Staying in an adventure mode, I feel like not all the time, but it's really important to consistently have new energy flow in our life, because we're less likely to get in those stagnant pockets. You know, the human spirit is meant for adventure. You know, that's how the human spirit thrives, is through adventure and through trying new things and going in new directions when it truly is just time to do so. So, you know, I feel like overall, higher self, pile number 3, is just acknowledging that you're going through a lot. It feels really heavy. You feel debilitated. You might even feel forgotten. Father, why have you forsaken me? But there is a huge blessing in within this lesson. And the degree of despair you feel is also parallel to the amount of clarity and conviction you will have once you're out of this energy, and once you just let it move through. And when you're not labeling it so much, I know just a few seconds ago I said the whole thing about depression, but that's something I don't actually use. I have never really used that word with myself, and my guides have always worked closely with me, because when you say I am and you follow that with a word, you are claiming that as your identity. And so we start to identify with that, and it solidifies itself within our field. And so versus just letting these states of energy move through, it's all just God anyways, it's just all different forms of it moving through you. So let it move through you, let it flow, let it go. But there's a huge blessing within this. And so please, remain hopeful. There is so much new coming in for you that I feel like you just might not be able to see right now, because there's just so much density that is being purged from your field at this time. And, have grace for yourself. Don't judge yourself during this time. Don't feel like you aren't where you're supposed to be, or you're behind, or you're not good enough, or whatever. Have compassion for yourself, and keep your heart open, to your own experiences. And, when that wand comes in, or when that new direction comes in, or when you feel inspired to go in that way, just go for it, and everything you need will be provided for you. We don't always know how, but your deepest wishes you are meant to experience those things. Peace. The Nine of Cups isn't about an elation of emotions. This is about true peace. This is true prosperity in terms of emotional prosperity, which is you're not swayed out of your center very easily. There's just a contentment and that peace that surpasses all understanding. And the thing about coming into this space where you are the King of Pentacles, the King, the Queen, whatever you want to say, but when you're in this energy of being the thing about the King, which is the highest court card, is he has seen many battles, all right? They have seen so many battles. They have lost a few. At least that's the perception. You only truly lose if you ever really truly give up. And what does that even mean, Because here we are just for eternity playing, And so a big part of this is recognizing and just acknowledging that you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But as long as you keep getting up, these types of emotional states will happen much less, because you're extracting the lesson, right? When I sense that change in the wind, I'm going to lean into it. I'm not going to try to hold on for what I have. I'm not going to try to fight and grapple with life. Because at the end of the day, it's life is trying to lead you into something much brighter and much more fulfilling, and so a lot of the times these things fall apart, not because we're doing something wrong, but it's because something better wants to fall together. All right. And so that's really what's being reiterated throughout this whole thing, is this is a huge blessing in disguise if you can just do your best to make it through, and being as resourceful as you can, whatever that means, but working with what you got, and keeping the hope, because you are supported. All right. You are supported during this time, and things are going to work out better than you expect, better than you anticipate. And the way that you operate from here on out is going to be much different. It's going to your financial needs are met the more that you do lean into your purpose. It might not even be directly. This is something my guides are did you notice this, Marissa? But my financial needs have been met through the services that I've been offering as my service to the planet, because it's what I feel like I'm here for. But it gets restored in different ways as well. It's not so black and white. It's not okay, all of your financial support is coming from, tarot, for example, or the other things that I've done. It comes in different, very unique, different ways. But I know it's because I'm living in alignment with my Dharma. And spirit is not so black and white. Things work different when you're on this type of, you just acknowledge, you just understand that, it's because you're doing what you need to do, because it's the right thing to do. You're following your Dharma, and you will be supported. You will always be supported when you're doing your best to live in alignment with your reason for taking birth. All right. So exciting. This is an exciting time, and give yourself permission to feel everything you need to feel without attaching that to your identity, without, over-identifying with that negative narrative. All right. And if anything, your narrative, if you're going to have one, is everything is here to set me free, because it is. And the better it gets, the better it truly gets. All right. I'm going to leave this here for now. If this was your reading today, pile number 3, leave a star in the comment section. If you have nothing else that you want to share, leave a star. Like this video. It helps these messages reach other people when they need them, if they need them. And I hope to see you around again on my channel. Much love. Hey, group number 4, welcome to your reading for a check-in with your higher self. So, very clear message that's coming through, pile number 4. There is something that I feel like maybe you've been putting on the back burner, something that, like a new direction that you want to go, or maybe not even necessarily a new direction completely, but something that you just want to start. And, you're more ready than I feel like you even realize. Okay. And Kali is the overall energy that this reading is, it's the overall undertone. Okay. And this is talking about finally addressing a fear, finally staring something in the eyes and just doing it, and not allowing fear to dictate the directions that you go. Because again, I feel like, you're thinking that you're just a knight and you're actually a king and an emperor in terms of like the qualifications that you have for whatever this is. Because this is something that I feel like is probably not just in this lifetime that you've done, right? You're kind of picking up where you've left off. And so I feel like there's something that you've been considering doing, a new direction that you've been going, and you have a wellspring, of information and so much value that you have to bring, that you're going to bring to the world, or that you have within you that you could bring to the world if you just did it, if you just went for it. And there's so much here about, I feel like your higher self is really saying that the wheel is turning, okay? And to not trip yourself up over all of like the little different decisions that you feel like you're going to have to make, to just take the next step, the next most obvious step, and you'll figure it out as you go. All right. But I feel like there's a highlight here of honoring everything that you're going to feel, because there's, the second that we take the leap, that's when fear is the loudest. And maybe it's just tuning into this paradigm or this direction brings up some of that fear or that anxiety. They say, there's a saying that fear is just excitement filtered through a lack belief, or lack beliefs in general. So I feel like you can't even fully see how qualified and how ready you are for this, because there might be some sort of core wound or childhood wound of feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you don't have anything to offer, feeling like, you're just going to be left in this state of feeling deprived, right? Or just feeling like you got your hopes up and you were let down, especially that can be most definitely part of an abandonment wound of like, getting your hopes up to like ever see your parent again, speaking from experience, I totally get it, and even if it's not a parent, just like feeling let down by life in general, feeling orphaned by life. This echoes throughout all of humanity right now. Okay. This is not a personal thing. We all go through this to varying degrees, but this is your higher self is saying you are beyond ready and you're right on the edge. Okay. I feel like maybe you've been teetering for some time. And I feel like your higher self is also acknowledging that you've wanted to make a decision from a balanced state. You don't want to just rush into something, but for you, I feel like, it's interesting because we actually had a group that was like kind of the opposite. It's like you want to do something. You feel like you want, you should be doing it, and you've maybe pushed yourself past your capacities and you should like, just chill kind of thing. And this group is like kind of the opposite. I feel like you've been chilling and you've been readying yourself or preparing yourself mentally, emotionally, maybe even like resourcefully, and the wheels are turning, and it's important to get on that wave while it's there, because it won't always be there. The energy won't always feel like it's there, but if the passion and the excitement and the joy is there, then it's important to just like go for it and just be firm. There's so much like, I feel like when we are just making decisions from a place of just being firm, because we know it's what our heart is whispering for us to do. Like that state of conviction is like offers so much protection. It's like a divine blanket of protection. And Spirit is saying that it's okay to like, have a slow and steady with this building blocks, like to have a neutral standpoint over this new direction. I'm not saying dissociate from the emotions or whatever anxieties you might feel, but it's like just kind of having as much of a zoomed out perspective from your experience. Again, remembering none of this matters. It's all going to be over so quick. And the things that we see, these cheesy but like moving videos on YouTube, at least I do sometimes, where it's like, what do people regret the most when they're dying, when they're on their deathbed? And it's that they didn't take a chance on themselves. They didn't take a chance in a direction that was deeply calling to them. Okay, and so this is just like seeing your life from that neutral perspective. If I was on my deathbed, what would I be so grateful that I tried out? What would I be so happy that I did, that I took a bet on? You know, and understanding too that, you know, your higher self is acknowledging that you have a very realistic perspective of good things taking time to build. Okay, but you have what it takes to build something that is firm, to build something that, you know, everything is lining up for you to be prosperous and to be successful. Okay, and it might not always be the thing. This might just be getting you in the direction of betting on yourself and taking greater risks to set you up for that thing. That might not be this thing, but is getting you moving in that direction, if that makes sense. But overall, the message is important regardless of what's happening, you know, in the next now moment, 50 years from now. You know, just worry about taking care of right now and facing those fears, facing those anxieties, facing whatever it is, face on, you know, head on. And, you know, understanding good things take time, you know, but you have what it takes for true prosperity, spiritual, mental, emotional, financial prosperity. You know, if that's something that you've been worried about, am I going to be left out in the cold? This kind of reminds me of Five of Pentacles type of energy. Am I, you know, going to have what I need to sustain myself? It's like, yes, you will. And I feel like this is something that, you know, you might be very nervous about it because there's no blueprint. There's no template for whatever this thing is. It's like, just kind of got to do it and hope that it will all work out, hope for the best. But it's not like a false sense of hope. It's a grounded sense of hope because this is being brought to you. This is being given to you by the divine, you know, this direction. Like one of the reasons why I love things like Vikings so much, and this is relevant. I don't bring it up if it's not relevant, but this is just what the guides are showing me right now. One of the reasons why I love it so much is because, you know, there's something about that archetype of we're good with what we have, but just like wanting to go and see what else is out there, wanting to go and not just play it safe, play it cool, but wanting to leave a legacy, you know, as someone that was like fearless, or maybe not even fearless, like true courage, they say is not the absence of fear, but it's feeling the fear and doing it anyways. Right. And that's why I feel like I so deeply resonate with that archetype. I even feel like I've probably spent an incarnation or two within that timeline. I don't know, just to like really absorb what that true warrior archetype is. Cause that's one that deeply calls to me and speaks to me, you know? And I feel like your higher self is just saying the time you're ready. Okay. You're ready. You're balanced. You've been taking this from a very like balanced approach, and you're much more like, it's going to transform you as you go. And I feel like you're already more ready than you think you are, like for this new beginning. And I don't want to say but, and as you take those steps and you're laying the bricks, right? And you're just taking you're just doing what makes the most sense, this next step, not worrying about the whole staircase, just the next step. Like it's going to transform you along the way, you know, and anything you lack will be provided, you know, but this is I feel like holistically, this direction is really going to shift your entire paradigm. All right. It's really going to shift how you feel about yourself. Even more, I feel like you have what it takes, but you don't truly see that. But you're even more and more, you're going to see that. So the risks that you take from here on out are going to be bigger. I'm not saying bigger risks are better, but it's just more and more going to lead you in a life that is much different from the mainstream. It's your road less traveled. And so a risk that is right for a king that's been on this path for some time is going to feel the same degree as it is for a knight, you know, when the knight is just beginning on this journey. It's hard to break this down, but what is like a big risk for the king is like a huge leap. And what is just like a teeny tiny leap for the king is still kind of a big leap for the knight, is what I'm trying to say. You know, and so you'll be readied as you go, you know, and this is not saying that this risk that you're taking, that I feel like your expectations are so high of yourself. And so it's like you expect yourself to like be in that position of being a king when it's like you still need to go through that transformation, and it's okay. But emotionally speaking, and just like in terms of what it is that you offer, this imposter syndrome, you know, it's understandable, but it's not necessary,
because I feel like you've been preparing for this for some time, and not just in this lifetime. But maybe there's like some sort of fear of being laughed at or ridiculed. You know, one of the strongest fears that we have in our culture is the fear of humiliation, right? And so there might be some sort of that, like, are they, you know, am I going to fall flat on my face? Am I going to lose everything? But what builds a king, which is interesting that we have all of that, what builds a king, or just, you know, regardless of your gender, what builds someone that is like overseeing an empire that is successful is someone that knows battles are going to come. Right? And someone that knows they're going to win some, they're going to lose some. And as long as you don't give up, have you really even lost, you know? But seeing everything as a lesson to transform you, I feel like is again, that observant type of energy that your higher self wants you to have as you start to go down this path. And as you know, start to take the steps leading you in this direction of doing this thing that you need to do. All right. But yeah, I don't really even have to go on about this pile. I feel like this is, for some of you guys, you were deeply looking for the confirmation of, should I do this? Should I go in this direction? And this couldn't be a louder yes, you know, and that you have so much, like, you are a hidden gem, okay? And you have so much value that you are going to bring to this field or this area or to the people that you're going to be working with, because with all of this overseeing type of energy, I feel like you might be overseeing something, or eventually this is going to lead you into a position, even if you don't want it, you know, where you're going to be overseeing a lot of people. That's something, you know, I'm totally going to like throw myself under the bus, but I'm rewatching Vikings for the third time. And what I love, what I didn't like pick up the first time is like this Viking, Ragnar, he didn't want to usurp. He didn't want to become the overseer. He didn't want to become the new Earl. It just happened, right? Because the current Earl, he started getting some beef because he was taking some risks that the current Earl, he wanted to play it safe. And Ragnar's like, no, I'm going to go out and see what's over here to the west. He took some risks. People started looking up to him like a leader. He was worried about, you know, about Ragnar, you know, his people going to Ragnar because he was exuding leadership qualities. And so he like was trying to kill him and ended up taking Ragnar's brother in hostage and torturing him, trying to find out where Ragnar was. When he was like healing in a hideout, trying to make this really short. And when Ragnar found that out, because he's just taking the next step, doing what he's called to do, you know, going where he feels natural to do, is like, okay, I'm going to challenge you to a duel because you tortured my brother and that's not cool. And just following his heart, doing what he knows he is right, okay, to him and his paradigm and his lessons and blessings, right, in that lifetime. And ended up becoming the Earl. And ended up making this huge, you know, leaving this huge legacy to where, I don't even know that time period of when Ragnar Lothbrok was the being, but to where it still echoes of his name, you know, because that is deep down that's such a powerful archetype, you know? And I feel like that's kind of like the similar energy that your guides are wanting to get you in more, is like, you're not worried about where it's going to take you. And maybe even a part of you is worried about that success, is worried about, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in charge of these people's lives. Like they're going to look at me like some sort of leader, you know, but it's like, you're not. What I loved about that is like, he didn't ask for any of that, but it came to him because he felt like he wasn't ready. Right. I saw this thing recently that it said something like, maybe it was like a clip out of a movie, and someone was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. And I think I was watching Narnia with my daughter and her dad. And Aslan, the big lion, was like, it's for that very reason that you think you're not ready to be the king that I know you are. Okay. And so that's kind of this. It's like, for that very reason that you feel like you're not ready, like kind of shows that you are, because your integrity is in the right spot. Your heart is in the right place. Right. And so when we're doing things and making decisions from that space, like, it doesn't mean that we still don't have some misperceptions, or we don't do things with a little bit of ego. It's not about being in a state of perfection. And that's what your higher self is wanting to communicate, right? Just getting started, and that purification will happen. You will be matured the longer that you're on this path. And I can speak from experience. Okay. And sometimes it's a slow and steady build. Sometimes it's not going to be like a big sporadic blow up. And, you know, oftentimes things that go up fast, you know what, they fall down just as quickly. Or people's hearts, you know, they become, they get tempted by the fame, by the power, by the money. And so they start to sacrifice their integrity, and it's like, all right, you know, more karma for you. And so I feel like you're just there's many layers to this. I'm sensing there's many layers to this thing. And you're ready for it, okay? I really feel deeply, I feel so confident in saying you're ready, and the wheel is turning is what your higher self is saying, and things might not really make sense, but the next step in each moment will make sense. And it's important that you're, with both of these twos, when you're following that next path, and as things are like working themselves out, you're always choosing that thing that feels the most right intuitively, in your gut. It's that gut feeling and not the fickle feelings. Feelings are fickle, they come and go, but it's like what you feel in your gut, like, all right, this just feels right. I don't know why, this just feels right. And you have what it takes to be very successful. You have what it takes to be so successful. And maybe even there's a deeper part of you that's like, am I truly ready for this? Okay. And when you get there, you'll be there. When you get there, you'll be there. And just like take the step, take the leap. And I'm excited. I want to know what you guys are doing, like what it is. If this was your pile, feel free to share below. And yeah, have that neutral standpoint as you go, just stay in that point of neutrality, things go up, things go down. But if you're in the center of the wheel, you don't get caught off balance by the success or the moments of success and blow up, or the moments where things are a little quieter, But yeah, if this was your pile today, leave a gem and that diamond in the comment section, or share what the hell y'all got going on, because I can be nosy. Virgos pretend like they're not nosy, but low-key we are the nosiest, okay? And yeah, give this video a thumbs up, and maybe I'll see you again soon, pile number 4. Much love.